Aber dies ist keine Zeit für die Schwäche des Geistes. Jedes Schwanken, jedes Zögern ist ein Verrat am Vaterland. Denn der moderne Krieg ist wie ein Schachspiel. Es geht niemals um den Einzelnen, sondern immer nur um das Gesamte.
We are now over a century out from the end of World War I. It feels like there are some strange connections to that time period. The last major pandemic, the Spanish flu, hit between 1918 and 1919. It was first identified in military personnel and went on to infect a third of the world's population. Fighting between two countries in Europe, this time Russia and Ukraine, is in full effect, with every major European power contributing to that war effort. It seems like a perfect time for the German remake of All Quiet on the Western Front to be on the Oscars list for Best Picture. All Quiet on the Western Front has been made into a movie 4 times since its initial release as a novel in 1929. Most famously, the American pre-code version in 1930, just a year after the novel's release. It was directed by Ukrainian-born Louis Milestone and starred Lou Ayres as Paul Baumer.
Forgive me, comrade. Say that for me. Say you forgive me. Oh no, you're dead.
The 1930 version, All Quiet on the Western Front, is still hailed as a harrowing depiction of World War I and has been ranked as the 7th best American epic film by the AFI. 92 years later, German director Edward Berger has made a German-language version of the film. It will be the first time a remake of a Best Picture winner has won. Edward Berger also says that knowledge of World War II and the German shame from Nazi Germany was part of a process behind this remake.
You know, it didn't stop right there after when Remarque wrote this novel. It just continued. It almost immediately led to the Second World War. So that was important to put into the film.
He cites Laszlo Nemes' Son of Saul, which won Best Foreign Language Film in 2016, as his subconscious influence. Son of Saul is a historical drama about a prisoner in the camp at Auschwitz. Part of what Berger means by subconscious influence is that Son of Saul utilized the extremely intimate shooting style that All Quiet on the Western Front aimed to replicate.
In a way, also, we wanted to make it intimate by staying very close to the characters and to what they're feeling. So actually, all of our decisions, camera, music, production design, costume, props, everything felt important to include into, or to just use in terms of what is Paul or Kat or whoever's in the frame feeling at this very moment. And that's what the camera tried to capture.
Paul Baumer was an extremely iconic character in modern German literature, is played by Austrian actor Felix Kammerer. Berger found Felix at a theater in Vienna, and he had never been in front of a camera before.
And I got a call from the director and the producer, and they told me we're going to see us in Prague. And then I was celebrating, but it takes you, I think, 4 seconds, and then you realize, oh God, now I have to really do that. And then the pressure builds up, and then you start preparing. But first of all, of course, it's just an unbelievable moment where you realize, I now get the chance to do that.
More than anything else, I think it's Felix's face that really sells a historical epic to the audience. His bright blue eyes stand out beautifully, caked in mud and blood, with a vacant expression behind them as the film goes on. All versions of All Quiet on the Western Front highlight the way that the Great War, as we now call it, was sold to teenagers joining the war effort.
Und die gegnerische Front in Flandern durchbrechen. Und dann werden sie in ein paar Wochen schon nun endlich auf Paris marschieren. Unsere Zukunft.
These children, who need parental permission to even join up, are told that they will be in Paris in just 6 weeks. Of course, nobody, including those recruiting soldiers, knew that the 4-year war would be unimaginably destructive and end with 40 million casualties and 20 million wounded. One reason is that modern total war is completely different from that which came before it. World War I frequently utilized gas attacks, and early in Paul's story, we see the infamous gas mask deployed.
Sie wackeln den Ohren. Naja, Leute, ich habe nur versucht, mir meine Maske aufzuziehen. Die paar Bäume werden bei Tagesanbruch fast sicher tot sein.
Later in the film, we see an entire company of dead teenagers who are gassed inside a building. The war is sold to Paul and his friends as a way to heroically defend the fatherland.
Meine Freunde, das sind Sie! Darum auf in den Kampf! Für Kaiser, Gott und Vaterland!
They enthusiastically join up and are taken to the horrific Western Front to live in the trenches. Part of Berger's German perspective that he added to the film was the real-life story of Matthias Erzberger's trip to ask for an armistice from the French military command.
Monsieur le Maréchal, ich bitte Sie den Waffenstillstand.
Nous demandons l'armistice.
The agreement that the French hand down to the German delegation is humiliating and concedes a large amount of territory. This would be the beginning of the humiliating circumstances that the Nazi Party later seized upon. Erzberger is played by Daniel Brühl, an actor that American audiences would recognize from Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds.
Invitation.
Ist das die besagte Dame, Frederik?
Jawohl, das ist Herr Dr. Goebbels.
Emmanuel, j'aimerais vous présenter quelqu'un. Emmanuel Mimieux, j'aimerais vous présenter au ministre de la Propagande, le chef de toute l'industrie cinématographique allemande, et maintenant que je suis acteur, mon patron, Dr. Joseph Goebbels.
At the end of the movie, although an armistice goes into effect in 6 hours, the dissatisfied general sends the soldiers for one last insane push through the plains.
Lazier gehört in deutscher Hand. Wir erobern die Ebene noch vor 11 Uhr und beenden diesen Krieg mit einem Sieg.
The push ends up being Paul's demise, but also the seeds of that dissatisfaction when the terms end up extracting a toll on the German people would sprout into the coming conflict of World War II.
Diese Menschen, Brixdorf, verkaufen unser Vaterland. Mein Befehl lautet Krieg. Und solange sich das nicht ändert, kämpfe ich hier um jeden Meter. Wir müssen jetzt durchhalten, auf frische Truppen warten. In ein paar Monaten rückt der neue Jahrgang nach.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Conan Neutron, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, host of Botanic Reversal, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Christina Oakes, when she's not dog-sitting, you can find her streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/cosmopolitics. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at @cosmopolitics. Throw her some subs on Twitch. Lauren Chouinard is a writer and social media strategist who writes film reviews for Merry Go Round magazine and is on Letterboxd as Lonely Goat Herd. I, of course, am your Academy Award nominated host in the supporting role, Forrest Miller. Let's bring out those nominees.
Well done. Well done.
Ooh, fun fact. Daniel Brühl's real name is Daniel Cesar Martin Brühl Gonzalez.
Ooh.
Wow. That's
he's actually a Spanish German actor.
That name got the Republicans organizing a ban against him, actually.
Yes. Yes.
Wait, Marti, like Jose
Martin.
Like, oh, yeah. Martin. I thought it was gonna be like German, Cuban, Spanish. Like,
well, he knows how to speak Spanish, German, Catalan, and French.
Yeah, well, I mean, he speaks French throughout Inglourious Basterds. Like, he switches between German and French that entire movie.
Very underrated, in my opinion, as an actor too.
Yeah, he's good. I only know the two roles is all I know him from.
I know
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's in that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
he danced.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hey, Lauren, welcome back. This is a very different movie from the last few times you were on.
I know. We were just discussing. So the last time I was on here, we did Lady Bird, and then before that, it was The Princess Bride. So she's got variety.
Right, exactly. She doesn't have just the one thing. It's not just the one thing, people. It's always good to
I
have
swear to
you.
God, this whole month is variety.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
we switched
It really
between
is.
Tar. We've gone to Banshees of Inisherin. This the next one we're doing is the
Fablemans,
Fablemans.
right?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Glass
like,
Onion.
yeah.
Yeah, the lineup for this Oscar season is absolutely one of the most, well, thematically diverse that I've seen.
Yes, important point. Yes.
Thematically.
Thematically only. But they
Thematically.
did. But don't worry, they did throw Soppin for the ladies. There's
Yes.
literally one movie directed by a woman, so that's good.
And they
Go
won't stop
on,
talking throughout
amazing.
it.
And not even like for best director.
Yeah, I
Ugh,
know.
no.
It's super annoying. And I actually did just see Woman King, and I quite liked it. I do think Viola
Yeah.
Davis was robbed. But that said, Andrea Riseborough is also fantastic. I do like To Leslie quite a bit. But we're not talking about any of that. That can wait till the after party. We're talking about All Quiet on the Western Front. I have said enough times this month and going on that I saw this with my dad over Thanksgiving, and I feel like this is peak watching with your dad on a holiday filmmaking. And I mean that as a compliment.
Did you watch that with your dad with subtitles, or did you guys go for the?
We watched it with subtitles. Yeah, he's into it. He likes that. He likes that stuff, which is great. And he also had seen at least the 30s one, and I think he had seen the 70s one. I only knew the 30s one. I knew the 30s one in the book. I didn't even know that there was a 70s one.
I feel like Netflix, like when they do a studio movie, like they give you everything at once. Like they do it in a bunch of different languages to make sure that you have that in advance. Like, I mean, definitely not good. Like I fucking would never watch a movie like this dubbed. Like, you know what I mean? Like it seems like
it's horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, like
the
dark
German accents are bad.
Like they had it on as dubbed for Dark, and I was like, this show is terrible. Why does everyone like it? And then I was like, oh wait, no, it's German. Oh cool. And I took Drei Jahre nach der Oberschule sprechen Sie Deutsch. So I switched over to German. I'm like, oh, this show's great. It's just the dub that's terrible.
Yeah.
And I think their whole deal is they're trying to go into international markets now, right? And that's one of the reasons why I think my theory is one of the reasons why this movie has done so well this award season is because they've done such a push towards like getting it to like every country, because the international markets love this film.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, it's interesting that World War I, especially, like, I mean, it doesn't get talked about as much as World War II, obviously, but like it is a global conflict. Like it's going on in every corner of the world. So pretty much anybody,
just ask Wonder Woman. Sorry.
No, but like so everybody has some kind of tie to it. Like everybody has, an ancestor probably that fought in it, or like and a story behind that. Like I put in the chat, like my great grandpa. The only thing I know about him, because my mom wasn't close with her dad's family. The only thing I know about him is he got hit with mustard gas, and he spent the rest of his life like fucked up from that.
Oh my god.
My great grandfather was a German soldier during World War II, fought in Russia and got killed.
Oof.
So I'm like,
yeah. Apparently, my grandma's
the Nazis. So
my grandma's brother had a similar experience in World War II. Had a similar experience to like this movie, because they put him into the field in 1945, like right before the war ended. He lasted 7 days and got killed.
Oof.
Like he was on the German side, so I don't really feel too bad about it.
But if Band of Brothers taught us anything, is it better to get it early, or is it better to like have to watch everyone else get around you?
Well, he joined up in 1945. So
what I'm saying is that like that's sort of like one of like the big things with a lot of these wars. Look at Saving Private Ryan. That one poor bastard gets it like as soon as the door comes down.
Yeah,
that's it's just like holy Jesus Christ. Okay.
Speaking of subtitles, I know a little bit of German. I know a little bit of German. I took it in high school. And I think we were considering watching the 30s version in class, but we watched Finding Nemo instead. But I will say that I do enjoy.
That's a different kind of war.
I feel like the discussions we have on this show. I'm like, what are we going to cover?
What is war? This show. But like
all aquariums on the Western Front.
When it comes to like the subtitles, I'm kind of glad that we actually can adjust the settings in Netflix or Hulu or whatever to be like, no, we want subtitles. We want the actual German. Like when I watch Clark with Bill Skarsgård, they gave me the dubbed version. I was like, this is not. I was like, wait a minute. I gotta have him speak in actual Swedish, the actual language, like not with an accent. It's weird. I don't even think it was him.
This movie only like vibes, I feel like, in German, right? Because like the speech he's giving, like I can't imagine an American voice being like
a German accent.
For country, for the Kaiser, for the fatherland. I'd be like,
remember Paths of Glory? How they had all the French people speak with like American accents.
Yeah,
but they were like
a lot of them had
their accents
accents
denoted their caste too. So like the redneck from France, hey, speaking just like this, you know.
Okay.
Well, they did that. They did that in Woman King too. Whenever they're when they're speaking Portuguese, it's American with like a. No, wait. When it's Swahili, it's American with like an inflected accent, and then when they do Portuguese, it's Portuguese to make sure, like, to get across the point that it is something that most of the people don't understand. And like, I was like, okay, I get it. Like it's hard to kind of get across, and if you're doing something that you want a lot of people to see, then like, you know, okay, you got to like, you know, not. It's better than being dubbed. Let's put it that way.
I will say this: there are some actors who probably have parents who were German or Hungarian or whatever have you, and these actors are excellent at actually perfecting the accent of like.
Well, they're dead on.
German.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Lauren, did you watch it dubbed? Did you watch it dubbed or did you watch it with subtitles?
No, I watched it with subtitles. I like watching my war films that are set in Germany in German because it's just a little extra, just punchy. So and I like the authenticity that you get out of like actually listening to it in the original German. I've seen other like foreign based like war movies dubbed. It never leaves me with like, it's like I kind of always walk away like feeling a little detached from it. So like I always go for, if it's in the original language, to do it that way.
I have to say though, this week I did rewatch Hero, which was a Chinese film, and they had James Hong in it, and that dubbing was actually pretty good. I never seen the dubbing before, so not all dubbing is terrible, just most of them.
I watched Battle Royale and it was great. But that was the only time that I was like, I didn't really like, I was like, I don't know, I'm seeing some really crazy shit happen here. I don't really care what language they're speaking at that point.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm trying to remember. I saw something where when you see an American soldier, like they're speaking English, but like the actor is terrible. And it's like, oh, I wish that was dubbed.
And like,
which one it was.
We know that, especially during like Civil War era, like we know the Northern accent was not really a New York accent wasn't really a thing. The Southern accent, I don't know, really existed. Everyone still had a slight like.
Are you kidding? The Union Army went into battle saying, "I'm walking in." Oh, get the fuck out of the way! What are you doing?
What am I, chopped liver?
But I feel like, if anything, these soldiers would have what would be maybe like a lower class version of a Mid-Atlantic accent. I'm assuming, whatever that sounds like. So like. When you're watching like Civil War films, I'm like, there's something about these Civil War films or revolutionary films that war films just don't add up. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, the accent's all fucked up. They all sound like they're from deep in the South or way like the heart of the Bronx. And they're like, what?
Well, I mean, every war movie needs that one guy that's like from Brooklyn though. That's in the squad that doesn't quite like vibe with everyone else. He's like, what are you guys talking about? I eat pizza every fucking day. Like, this is
always the first one to go. They always kill the Italian first.
And he's like the cook.
That's anti-Italian discrimination.
I know, my people.
he's like, this is the first time I've been up to the front. What's going?
Oh, are we warming here?
Oh, I just got shot.
I just
this guy's breaking my balls over here.
So yeah, the accents and dialect is key when it comes to these war films.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in my opinion, foreign war films are just so much better than American ones. Sorry guys, it's just true.
No,
we'll get to that when we come back because I got thoughts and I know Lauren.
All right. Well, I have this clip of Felix Kammerer and Daniel Brühl with the
The umlaut.
yeah. So
He's got
this is talking about his transformation into Erzberger, and actually the accent that he uses, which is not his native accent whatsoever. Like
Right.
he uses a South German accent,
which is
throughout.
a completely different. I mean, it's the same language, but it's just like the same thing. Difference between like Mississippi and the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
Swiss German,
So,
French German. There's a difference.
So throughout this, I guess his wife is like from that part of Germany, so he based the accent off of his like father-in-law, kind of, which is kind of a funny addendum to this.
Let's go.
Daniel, you go through a physical transformation. You're sort of almost unrecognizable as this character. Does that help you get into character when you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, okay, my body's different, my face is different. What does that do for you as an actor?
Yeah, well, what I wanted in these scenes that were in such a strong contrast to the action on the battlefields and to these young men dying is a very contained and very focused atmosphere, almost also very claustrophobic, the way James Friend and Edward shot it. And what I wanted to get right with this part is that persistent humanist approach that he had, and that is for me reflected in his accent, where he comes from, because in contrast to the rigid, harsh Prussian militaries who have this almost, it sounds like metal, the way they talk. It's that very tough German that they talk. Up until now, you can hear it if you travel within Germany. People would talk differently in Berlin, and they still have this harshness in their accent. So, and that was for me difficult because my wife is from southern Germany, and it's a difficult accent to hit. And then I had my father-in-law, reading all these lines, and I always had my phone next to me. I'm still not sure if he would approve of my final performance, but I wanted to sound determined but soft. I wanted to be the only human being in this on that train, and so that was to me the most crucial, even more than the physical. To become a bit bigger and to have a certain gravitas. But that for me was one of the keys for that little part was that the voice and the accent. And I also found it very interesting what Albrecht Schuch did, because he decided to have an accent which is also not his, which sounds very working class because it's in an industrial area of Germany. So I found it very smart that he went for that. And I'm very impressed that this young gentleman is an Austrian. And normally it takes me a second to find out that someone is from Austria, but he is so good at getting rid of that accent that I at first thought, hold on, where you from? So he lost it completely for that part as well. So it's interesting. This is something that for us, it's the same with American movies, that we cannot sometimes fully appreciate the differences and nuances of different accents. But in this film, if you have a bit of knowledge of German, it's interesting to listen to, all these different accents. But I have to tell you, you really nailed that accent, because I was on set when I had a day off, and I went to set and watched the screens, and I listened to the scene over the radio, and I thought, who is this guy talking? And I did not recognize your voice. And then I saw the picture, and it looked to me like you were dubbed. Yeah, it was eerie
by my father-in-law.
Yeah, it was really eerie because it was so different from what you sound normally. It's
thank you, man. Yeah,
really great.
Wow.
I just love, like, as someone who is 69% German.
Nice.
I love the German accent and the variations of the accent, as well as the language. For those who don't know, if you're wondering why we learn High German instead of Low German is because of Martin Luther's 99 Thesis. Even though, in my opinion, German's the easiest language for English speakers to learn, since we get the German language from the
I
Germanic
got
tribes.
99 problems, but the church ain't one. Hit me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, like, German, even though I don't really remember a whole lot, because high school you just learn how to like conjugate verbs and German history and nothing else. But like,
I was busy learning the swear words. That's what I was doing.
Scheiße, but fuck that.
Schweinhund.
Fick means fuck, which, by the way, the Germans actually invented the word fuck, so you're welcome. We did that.
that was part of the 30% that y'all were awake, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I just have a deep appreciation for like my German heritage and like the culture and the language and even the different dialects, because there's different clearly there's difference between like the northern accent, western, eastern. Like it's just like any other country. Like
Are you saying you give it all up for the fatherland? Is that what you're
Also, Daniel Bruhl's accent is very interesting because his mother is Spanish. So it's almost like his accent's like a mixture between like a German and Spanish. Like it's not completely German, it's not fully like Spanish. Because when I listen to him really speak, I'm like, he doesn't sound all that German.
Yeah.
So I'm like, his accent's always fascinated me. So that's why whenever he actually does play like foreign characters, like he really lets his talents go at him, knowing that, I have a mother who speaks Spanish, I have a father who's German. So he gets the best of both worlds of playing these different like nationalities.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that the movie does very well is that like you also see like the young kids on like the French side too, and they have their other, like, you're not seeing their side of it much in the same way that like there's a parallax view, if you will, of other aspects of this film and story where you're only seeing one side of it. It's like, no, these are a bunch of scared kids just trying to like live. And that's and you think it would be obvious, but that does not get over in all war movies, even some of the good ones. And of course, the best version of this, mark the time, 28 minutes, come and see.
Yes.
And which was not even available to watch in the US for a long time because it was made under Soviet Russia. But oh my God, is that movie harrowing? And like, it's I think, Lauren, you said it's a horror movie, really.
Yeah. It was really one of the like, if not the turning point for me on even having an appreciation for war movies. Because it's like, I grew up watching, I saw Saving Private Ryan and I saw Schindler's List, and all of those movies like had a very like profound impact on me. World War I is a really tricky one because it was so brutal that a lot of people didn't dare to touch it for a long time. I mean, the 1930s version really did it, and then no one did it for a really long time.
Until Wonder Woman.
Who knew
the gods were involved? I didn't know. I missed that chat.
That lasso of truth, man. You guys truth given to the BDSM of it all.
A big part of like why it was so brutal and why they didn't expect it to be so brutal. Like they really expected that this is going to be another great power conflict, in a whole list of great power conflicts that had happened over like centuries, right? Like
Oliver Franz Ferdinand of all people.
Yeah. Well, every time one empire started getting above the other empires, pretty much like they'd all kind of get into a scuffle or whatever. It would last a certain amount of time. I think the reason that World War I was so devastating is that it's the first modern industrial war that involves all of these different countries. And, the first time they have things like tanks, the first time that planes are deployed, the first time gas is deployed, right? Like, so all of these things are almost like playthings in the hands of, imperial powers that just kind of throw them onto the battlefield and devastate, kids. And they're detached from it, right? Like the people in control, the people manufacturing these things are completely detached from the battlefield where, it's levels of destruction. I mean, machine guns too. Like there were never machine guns until this conflict. Like, so the ability to kind of just dig in these trenches and just, brutalize each other is something that I don't think anyone really expected, right? That like people brought horses onto the battlefield, like they brought their cavalry, and they just thought it was going to be another like cavalry war, and then it was like, oh no, this is like they're taking machine guns and gunning down the fucking horses too. Like this is not a cavalry war. Like Russia kind of had to Russia being completely unprepared kind of withdrew after like the Bolsheviks took over because they were like, we're kind of just getting slaughtered. Like the Russian army did not really expect to, be on the battlefield with tanks, machine guns, planes. I mean, they did have good boots, but like.
On the
Well,
ground.
I want Lauren to finish her point. But I have to say that the scene where you see the tanks, like these early versions of tanks, how they're presented is, I think, one of the best presentations I've seen in any movie. Where
100%.
like you just see things shaking and they're like, what's going on? And then you see these like things coming, which let's be clear, these are like farm boys and stuff like that. But they don't have like an advanced knowledge of like what's happening and like
they can't even conceptualize that it exists.
There's just this thing that's shaking the earth and rolling towards them like a dinosaur or something.
Yeah, like on Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Yeah, no, literally.
Yeah, totally. So Lauren, what were you? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh no, it's all good. No, but to Forrest's point, like there was so much new stuff that was introduced, and there was so much just like brutality. I actually I don't know if I told you about this prior to us getting on here or not, but my my ex-boyfriend used to work in VR, and we were really big fans of the podcast Hardcore History. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's it's hosted by Dan Carlin. He's like this amazing historian. He does it's like an 8-hour breakdown of World War I that is incredibly difficult to listen to. And so my ex-boyfriend was like, what a wonderful thing to turn into a VR experience. So he created this this VR experience with Dan. Yeah, that like basically like walks you through this. Why anyone would go through that experience is beyond me, but it was like an incredibly like visceral.
You gotta take shrooms and then go through the.
How did they get the soggy boots? Like that's what I want to know.
They slap some mud on you when you walk in. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Well, it's a total immersion experience.
I couldn't stomach going through it, but come and see in terms of the most that I think that I could possibly stomach in a war film. Like that was it, and I think that was the turning point for me on war films, because before that I was watching a lot of like World War II films that were very much like, you know who the bad guys are, and when they die, you're like, rah rah America, like that's great. I didn't know that much about the conflict that was happening in Belarus when I watched Come and See. I kind of went into it blind, like not really knowing any of the politics of the situation or any of the history. And so I was just really left trying to digest like the experience from this like young boy's point of view, which by the way, similar to Felix, who is the lead in this film. I think his name's Alexei. What was it? Alexei. I'm going to butcher this.
Alexei Sales, who knew? No.
Yeah, Alexei Kravchenko. So Alexei Kravchenko, this was his first performance. Also, was in
right. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
And then he went on to do a bunch of other really like incredible. He was in The Painted Bird, which I know is like a very controversial film, but I see a lot of The Painted Bird reflected in the remake of All Quiet on the Western Front in a lot of ways. But going back to Come and See, so I think Come and See was the thing that really just like knocked me out, because it was so hyper realistic but also so surrealist at the same time. Like it felt like a fever dream, and then you had to like sit there and think like, oh my gosh, but this actually happened. And it was the first time that I realized that I'm like, war films aren't just about winners and losers. Like it's a horror film.
Right.
This is closer to the horror genre, or it can be closer to the horror genre than it can be to adventure, when in the right hands.
And it's art, and it's art in a way that like the art is there's no winners here. Nobody wins. And it's so, some of the shots are so beautiful, but yet so brutal. It's like akin to The Road or something, where you're just like, oh, that was great, but oh my God. Oh my God, I'm gonna go stare at the wall for a while.
I feel like war films are is like hard to make, number one, obviously, like really complicated to make. Number two, it's hard to sell them without kind of joining up almost with like a more not like pro imperial, but like I don't know, it's hard to make like a good anti-war film. right? Like it's hard to make a good anti-war film.
It
doesn't have
drums up
elements.
nationalism, whether you want to accept it or not. Like you'll subconsciously be thinking about who you're rooting for, and that's just film in general. You know, you have your
like people that miss the point with Patton. It's like, no, it's not like here's a cool guy doing cool guy stuff. Like this is not the how-to guy. It's meant, and it was meant to.
Fun quick story about Patton. My dad saw it in the theater on an army base because he grew up. My grandfather was served for many years, and when the opening scene when they yell attention, everybody in the theater just like stands up. Not realizing that it's part of the film.
Well, because it's set up exactly. Yeah. So and that's one of the reasons why that is effective. Lauren, as you mentioned, it's hard to do like a war movie that is like explicitly anti-war, but especially for the time it was. One of the reasons why is because it is one of the first times it used the dressing of war and the military and whatnot in such a way and depicted things, but also was like, oh no, this is terrible. He's like just using these kids it's crazy. This is a guy that's like is hailed as a hero, and MacArthur was almost like denigrated in some ways, not for doing that. And it's like, no, MacArthur was right.
Nixon was really into Patton. Like he really he watched it I think 3 times in a row and identified clearly with Patton.
Yeah, clearly not getting any of the nuance of the story, right?
And it was as Watergate was like breaking, so he was like completely embattled, and he's like, I'm just like that guy.
Oh my God, no. Can I recommend a war film? It's actually more of a black comedy film, directed by Richard Lester, called How I Won the War. It stars Michael Crawford and John Lennon.
John Lennon, yeah, that's the
Jack
McGowan
McGowan and Roy Keener. It's basically this is a conflict. This takes place during World War II, but it's about the Western Desert Campaign of 1942, which doesn't really get talked about at all in regards to World War II. But it's a funny film, and it has a lot of heart, surprisingly, a lot of laughs, and also some traumatic moments, obviously. But I feel like when it comes to like,
is that where John Lennon got the PTSD that made it? Never mind.
No,
that was going to be an absolutely horrific.
Don't
joke.
go there.
We're doing so well. We were doing so well. I was reminded of that when I watched the Beatles thing, that everybody watched that was great. That I forgot what it was called, where Ringo was mostly sitting around waiting to play the drums most of the time. I think. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, since we're talking about like feckless leaders, that's a great example. My favorite scene in the All Quiet on the Western Front, where Baldy McMustache. I don't have anybody's name except for Paul. So everybody has a nickname. The fourth friend. Paul.
Good old Baldy McMustache. Who can forget?
We
do know who you're talking about. Yeah,
he's General Baldy McMustache.
Yeah.
Give him some respect.
General Baldy McMustache. But where he's sitting there having dinner with that other guy, and he's like, oh, what's your father do for a living? It's like, oh, he owns a factory. Oh, what's he make?
Yeah.
It's like he makes some horse bridles. It's like, oh, you're set for life.
Yeah.
Like just to show how out of touch and stupid this guy is.
The fact that he's a lifelong soldier, and his dad was a soldier, and just to sell the point that like
an NCO, non-commissioned officer, didn't come up from like fighting. Came up like
aristocracy,
the aristocratic landed gentry, like often like oh, this is an alternative to like starting your own business, is like you are a vaulted military man, and I think an accent on the man, by the way. Good one, Christina. Christina is so henceforth known as General Baldy McMustache.
Well, which is,
but I think my actual point though is that like I think this film does an incredible job of showing that class of people talk amongst themselves, being completely divorced from the reality of the front. What is it like? What's the saying? Like I forget. There was some saying about like donkeys leading lions or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was. But this is one of the only movies I can think of that actually shows just how hapless and just completely willingly divorced from reality they were. And I think that is what makes this very special.
Which is completely in contrast to the conversation where they're all sitting around and the kid is daydreaming about, one day being the gendarme, right? Like the military police, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're never going to be that. Like you are never going, like you're not, your rank right now is never going to like.
If you live, this will be what you are for forever. If you
Yeah.
live, which is kind of a big if.
And they're just sitting like so that's cool. I think that it's cool that because they added all of these parts. They're not in the there's no narrative about like generals. There's no narrative about Daniel Ertzberger and the KPD like going to the to make some kind of armistice deal. Like there's nothing about that in the original book. They added all of that, but they do have the class implications throughout it, and they do have a moment where the Kaiser literally like visits them at the front, and they put them in all new gear, and then take back the gear after the Kaiser leaves.
After exactly, which is incredible, right? It's like no, that was for his benefit, not for yours. Amazing!
They're like, wow, we can finally get some good boots in the front, and they're like, we're gonna need those boots back. Those are our
no, we need.
They gotta get off the ground.
Well, and they there's like a rhyming thing of that early on when he's getting his uniform and it's got like someone else's name tag sewn into it. And he's like, oh yeah, it didn't fit him. It didn't fit him. And then they you see,
and the reason is because they took it off of another dead body and they just didn't tell him. And it's just like such a good symbolism of like the endless cycle of war that it's just like they'll just rip it off one kid and put it on the next kid.
Yeah, and it's such a haunting, shot where you see the bottom, like the camera goes down, and you just see the pile of fucking tags that were from boots for kids that have died.
Yeah, like just like it's like this is 12 times an hour this happens.
Yeah,
right? Where it's like, oh my god.
Well, they're just and they're feeding these kids into the industrial machine, and a perfect symbolism also is when they're like the guys selling them on the war, the principal of the school. Which is a scene that comes directly out of, All Quiet in the Western Front, the novel. And he's like, in weeks, you'll be in Paris and the war will be over, which, the people that are out of touch, that's another version of being completely out of touch, right? But then, when they finally get to the field, like, just like 10 minutes later or 5 minutes later or something and go through the whole process, they're like, maybe you'll live 6 weeks. Like, wouldn't you like that? Wouldn't you like to live 6 weeks? And the kid's like, yes, sir. And he's like, maybe you will. I don't know. Like...
Stranger things have happened, I hear.
And the other shot that I wanted to bring up in this is they pull up in the truck and the doctor runs up to them that's just coated in fucking blood.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
And that's the first thing they see, and he runs in and he's like,
no, we need this truck right now. Get out. Get out. We need this now. And it's like,
and they're all like, after they're kind of just like singing in the truck and like having a good time. They're like, wow, this is gonna be awesome. We're going to the front. The front is the good part of the war, obviously. Like
the worst thing is the one he gets his gun gets called a dirty girl. That's
that's
Ben
like
Shapiro. The worst thing that's happened.
Which that scene is like it echoes Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah,
that's like this is my rifle. God. And I like the German version of that, where like you sleep with your rifle, you love your rifle, right? And you must not get any dirt on your they didn't say that in the fucking the Full Metal Jacket. They're just like, this is my rifle, my right, you know what I mean? Like they go through the whole speech, but like I like the German version that's like, you must not get any dirt on your rifle.
And it's on everything else, but yeah, I'm sure I'll get right on that.
I got a Full Metal Jacket story that's very amusing. So my father was in the Marines. He got kicked out, though, because of his drinking. My uncle, my mom's younger brother, wanted to join the Marines. He wanted to kind of, clean up his act because he was a bit of a bad boy or whatever. And my dad was like, yo, Michael, you're not going to be able to handle the Marines. He's like, yeah, I can. He's like, okay, well, you know what? For your going away party, we're going to play Full Metal Jacket. So you'll know. And maybe you'll change your mind. He's like, I doubt it, Bill. I doubt it. He watches it with family friends, and he's like, you know what?
Yeah,
because Full Metal Jacket is the real experience.
Both Full Metal Jackets, first part and second part. It's just in different ways. Yeah,
like it was just when I heard that story, I'm like, that's so funny.
I do think that is real quick. I do think that is one of the great war/anti-war films, but in an oblique Kubrick way, right? And I think that's an important distinction because I think when there has been something that shows the horrors of wars, it's generally kind of been that way. And it's interesting that this just is documenting the horror.
What it does to the soldiers.
And I think you see a little bit of that, like in scenes. Like again, I love the Saving Private Ryan scene where they're storming the beach and the one kid just gets it before he even gets out of the boat, right? Because that is a perfectly indicative of what's going on. Band of Brothers did a great job of this. Not a movie, miniseries, whatever. But like, I think it's rare to see a movie that does that, and it doesn't have like some kind of jingoistic whatever country it's pushing for, kind of thing to it.
Yeah.
The book,
and I think that's why it's
of-
resonating too. Also, yeah.
the book version of All Quiet on the Western Front, there's like a scene that's really reminiscent of the scene where they they take the soap and they beat up Private Pile with the soap, and it's that brutal scene. But in the book version of All Quiet on the Western Front, they beat up their drill sergeant, like because he walks out like, and he's kind of drunk because he's fucking German, obviously. So he's like kind of drunk, like, and so he's like coming back from the bar, and they hate this one guy. So they throw a sheet over his head and just start beating the fucking living shit out of him. Not like they don't kill him or anything. He like just runs off at some point. But like that's how they handled their fucking drill sergeant. That it's just annoying or whatever. And it's like the difference between that and what they'd allow in like an American movie, I feel like, or what they'd have in an American film, where it's like of course you beat up another soldier and like the discipline is there. But it's kind of interesting to see like, oh no, like the breakdown of discipline was immediate because these are just kids that like they're kids that you're fucking pushing to the limit already, and they're becoming animals. And it's like, of course, if they saw an opportunity to beat the shit out of their drill sergeant, they would. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, my dad told me lots of stories. He actually, when he was in the Marines during inspection, Ronald and Nancy Reagan showed up. The throat goat and him, and he was like, this was like 1980. Like this is right after he became president, I think. And he's like, this is the early 80s. I don't think Ronald Reagan is all right up there.
Well, and Reagan's military service that he lied about constantly was just on like a Hollywood studio. Well, not Hollywood, but it's like an off Hollywood studio base where he was making military propaganda films. And throughout his entire presidency, he would mix up, like, I don't know if it was mixing up or if it was lying, but he'd be like, "Oh, I was in combat," and everyone was like, "That's the plot of a movie you made for the military."
Yeah, like you made a movie about that. Yeah, and I think there's so much to discuss.
Well,
in this film there's so much to discuss in this film that I don't really want to get into like Ronald Reagan's career. But yeah, how amazing that like that was an actual thing that happened with like leader of the free world, right? But a sensible leader of the free world.
Well, I mean, it gets to that landed gentry thing. I mean, not that Ronald Reagan was but it gets to that same concept of
the class dynamic, sure, because
yeah.
because he's coming from a place where like he never had to like look even. Some people, it's like, what's the Creedence song, right? Fortunate Son. It's all right there, and that holds true not just for America but for any country.
Vietnam vets be like the meme every time they're Fortunate Son.
Yeah, I just
exactly.
Want to also point back to our episode of Paths of Glory, which I know Conan and Christina, that was before.
Doesn't exist, unfortunately. It's too bad that it doesn't exist, but
yeah. But this movie actually made me think a lot about Paths of Glory because
me too.
Even though Paths of Glory was set on the French side of everything, it was very much the same story of incompetent leadership getting people killed.
I think
Paths of Glory is a courtroom drama.
That's the main story of World War I, right? Like throughout like permeating throughout all of these stories is incompetent leadership, and then just machines of fucking war, like industrial carnage. So it's like completely out of touch, like aristocratic generals and military hierarchy, like leaders and world leaders,
and kids, literal kids suffering. And that's the fact that it's so explicitly shown here, and you see like just the barefaced nature of it, that like they're not even bothering to hide it when they're amongst themselves, like to the point of like the deadlines, right? The deadlines of like, okay, when will this go into effect? Well, okay, it'll go into effect like this hour and this time. Why not now? Why not just do it now? And then like no one seems that interested in.
Yeah, it's the poetic nature of 11/11.
Yeah. Oh no, it seems like a better time to do it. Really?
Yeah.
Are you asking like these kids that are like literally dying face down in the mud if that's a better time to do it? They would probably think we should do it now.
The French military, the general or whatever that's in charge of everything that he goes to make the armistice. Seems like he really like just throwing out random times. He's like,
he likes numbers. He's a numerologist.
Yeah. he's like you have 72 hours to accept, and he's like, oh shit, and then he's like, all right, do you accept? Now 6 hours. this goes into effect. Like,
but that disconnection from any of the ramifications or consequences of what that would mean is like so vital to understanding the breakdown between those two classes, really.
Well, and also just purposely kind of fucking with the Germans, because the French are obviously like the winners in the situation. They can do whatever the fuck they want. So like giving him the terms that are going to be fucking unpopular, where he just cedes all the territory, and then being like, oh well, I guess I'll give it to you in 6 hours. Like it's the continual like fucking of somebody.
Worked out really well, didn't it?
Yeah.
That worked out really, really well. Nothing bad ever happened because of that embarrassment, right? Nothing bad happened.
I can't think of anything.
I didn't read past this in the history book. Nothing bad happened after that. That was okay.
Which Daniel Ertzberger or Matthias Ertzberger, the guy that Daniel Bruhl is playing, right? Like he ends up being a scapegoat, pretty much, that the Nazis just point to over and over again. Like that's the guy that sold you out, and they end up fucking killing him in the end, because it's like that's the guy that sold out Germany. Like so he gets tarred with that. And he's not even like a SPD member. Like he's not even like a social democrat. Like he was a centrist that like hand wrung throughout the war until his son got killed in 1917, and they turned against it when Germany was already losing. Like that was his big contribution.
But it doesn't matter because someone's got to take the fall, right?
Yeah, but it's just he's kind of a perfect fall guy. Like he was known throughout Germany as like an opportunist, right? Like in the political system, like he was always the fucking person, the center party, like that's kind of like hand wringing about everything, like didn't really come out against the war until the last possible minute. So he was
the Pete Buttigieg of his time.
he also looked like this. This guy, this is a perfect fall guy. Like look at
I'm just saying.
he is the Pete, but like look at this guy. This guy was the perfect, I feel like, German fall guy.
Yeah.
Just that, like, he looks like you could roll him down a hill.
Right. He has that kind of, he has resting guilty face too.
Yeah. He looks like the one, there's like those
glasses,
cartoons of the German
I was
kid.
gonna say nice spectacles.
Yeah, Germany had the best spectacles back in 1910s.
Speaking of Pete Buttigieg,
the ones in 1934 weren't bad either.
Anderson.
Too soon. Hey Lauren, why don't you take us out of that?
I was just thinking about the glasses. No, actually, one of my favorite scenes in this movie was toward the beginning, when it's after like the first like moments on the front, and his friend who has those like very like very unique glasses, when he finds them like just caked in the mud, and then he starts collecting people's dog tags after that. But that moment, like, really, I mean, there were lots of heartbreaking moments in the movie, but like that one just gutted me so early on that it just pretty much set the tone for like how I was going to feel for the rest of it. And it's just a pair of glasses, and it was really just like very, very like, yeah, it really just set the tone.
I feel like this is a pitch perfect representation of like scenes in the movie. Like they're actually meeting in a train compartment in this with their French counterparts to like discuss negotiations at the end of everything. Like, so it's kind of fascinating that like they really did pay that much attention to detail throughout this.
This is this is a very well shot movie, and I think it's up for cinematography. I was just looking.
It is.
Right? Yeah, it's gonna win. It's assuredly gonna win for cinematography. Like, and it's either gonna be that, or I don't know. Maybe they'll give it to Avatar, which is like, what, really? But I don't know. But I think it's gonna be this. I think the international audience will push this one over.
Are you guys going over Avatar on the show?
No.
That's one of the only ones we're not going over.
No, but excellent. Okay, good.
Neither Top Gun Maverick.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. The cinematography. Okay, good. I approve. I approve of the omissions. But yeah, the cinematography in this movie was just so like it was interesting because it was a very well shot movie. There were things that I've never seen before, but then there were also a lot of shots that I was like, that's Paths of Glory, that's The Painted Bird, that's Come and See.
Yeah.
You can definitely see where it borrows
Yeah.
its influences from. Sometimes maybe even too much. And the score as well, I feel really takes a lot of cues from some of those past movies, especially with their use of classical music. There was
And
one that I
Dune!
noticed-
And
Dune! Yeah.
Also
okay.
Dune! Like Hans Zimmer's like classic Dune, which is
Let's
like,
talk
dude,
about the
there was a
three-note
movie that
block.
just did that.
Okay, here's the thing though, was I was talking to my husband about this, was the 3-note blah, which is what I call it. And like every time I hear like a 3-note blah, I'm like, some ass kicking's about to go down. Like, but that's not this movie. So I was very confused. And the 3-note blah was happening, like it was foreboding, but I also was like, oh my gosh, are they going to show up with some Terminator shit? And then we just get a whole new twist.
Oh yeah, they sent the Terminator back too.
Yeah, they're like, you thought.
You have not known. I'm going to make sure nobody messes with Austria. So I'm gonna let this guy defend himself though. This is the composer of the movie talking about scoring it, and I'm gonna let him do his own defense.
In his defense,
What you composed is still in my nightmares. Actually, I think we saw the film some weeks ago, so I know exactly how you're all feeling right now. Please, how did you approach the project? How did you approach the script? What's your process?
Well, I was remembering when I read the script. I was remembering when I was
remembering
19,
when I watched Dune.
We still had the decision to make if we want to be soldiers or civil servants. So we either had to go to the military or we had to be civil servants. And if you decide to be a civil servant, you had to write a long letter for a commission. And you had to stand in front of them and explain them why you're not want to go to war or why you don't want to be a soldier. And when I was reading the script, I had the feeling that exactly this conflict that I had in that time when I wrote that letter, which was a very difficult letter for me because I had to, well, I talked with my parents about it, with my father, who was born 1931. And so we had a long conversation about that. And in a way, when I was starting to write, sometimes, I was crying because I had the feeling, there was so much already happened with people that were not able to decide, or when they decided, like those boys, they were suddenly kept and they couldn't flee. And I think one of the motives in my music, I would say, was that the situation that you're still hoping to see the warmth of home and you're longing for, let's say you see a light on the horizon, even though the horror is already on the floor, but you still just see the light and you're like, this is where I want to go back home to. And the other motive was more the war machine that I felt when, and that was the first theme, the boom, boom, boom. That is a harmonium from my grandmother. And I wanted to use an instrument from that time. And so I was pressing the pumping paddles, which you hear sometimes. You hear that's the paddles from the harmonium. And I sent that theme to Edward, and then he wrote me back. You never know what you get back when you send something out. It can be like, oh man, go back home and try something else, which is the hardest thing, because then you have to invent yourself again. And sometimes you lose already your heart in the first try. And then it's very hard to go back and say, okay, my best thing that I gave you is not good enough. So I have to invent myself again. And when he wrote me back, he was very enthusiastic. All ropes were cut and I could fly.
Interesting.
I was actually
I say the tank moment where they have the dun, dun, and you see the tanks rolling in. That was a good use of that, I think.
Yeah, I thought that was really perfect. And the thing is, like, so that's the thing is that it's like that sound also reminded me of like the sounds that the aliens make in War of the Worlds, like the shitty one with Tom Cruise. The same like tone. So I was just, so that's why I was completely like, whoa. But I thought that the use with the tanks was good because, like, to those soldiers, that is like an alien experience for them. So that that really worked for me.
They should have gotten the first plane fly, because they did that one moment where like a plane flies above them and you see like, oh, like the planes are, you know, shelling them. They should have had fucking Tom Cruise flying the plane.
Like
they never do say what the country is that they're running the mission against. So there you go.
Well, because there's the one trench, right? That they invade the end. The trench has both.
I'd be for it then.
The trench has both American soldiers, which you're supposed to know because there's like a black guy smoking a cigarette. Like they're like, this is American, like you know this. And then, but also French soldiers. So like they're all kind of in the trench together. Of course, they've thrown the black guy into the trench with them because I guess, you know, frontline shit. But like they're all celebrating and like having a fucking party in the trench where they're you know, they're all getting drunk in the trench and then you get invaded. That's like the one American that you really see for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Americans.
Unless he was Moroccan, but I don't think so. I think he was.
The next thing you know.
I love the one French lieutenant. Like I think he's the like kind of the same rank as Kat or somebody like that, right? Like the squad leader. I like that he kind of looks like Inspector Clouseau. Like,
oh my gosh, you're right.
I didn't even think about that at the time, but that's fun.
I can't unsee that now.
When Conan started playing that sound, I imagined he actually had a real harmonium like right there, and he's like pumping it with his feet. Because if you've ever seen one of those things play, it's wild because you get this foot pedal and you have to have like a desk set up, and you also have like a hand pump too.
It's a full body experience, to be clear.
And you got the arm going, and then you're playing it with your other hand. It's wild.
Renotes was all you could get with that much work.
Hey, he only needed the 3 notes. I mean, if you're getting paid by the note, that's great money. Like, let's go.
Oh, guys, question. Speaking of band of brothers, which set of brothers are winning in a fight? The Skarsgårds or the Culkins?
This is an after party thing. This is 100% an after party question.
Ooh,
we're talking about.
Skarsgård.
Yeah, I can't see the Culkins winning any kind of fight, but you know,
they fight dirty. But that's okay. Let's
nobody wants to tackle the naked man wearing the bunny suit or whatever.
Oh my god! Imagine someone in the film doing like something like that or wearing like a weird costume.
I think that would be a different film, but yeah.
I like in this film, right?
Imagine if Benny Hill came dashing through being chased by naked women. Yeah, it'd be a different movie, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, you can do the Benny Hill theme in the scene that I'm about to talk about. I like that the movie opens and you're instantly in the fucking trench. Right, and then you're in a scene that happens way later in the movie. You're in the scene where he jumps in through the trench. I think it happens like an hour into the movie, and everybody's getting shot around him pretty much. And like it's the exact same thing. Like the guy gets shot, and he's like trying to wake him up, and then he has to jump up, and then you see him throw the grenade, and then he keeps running. And like you know the machine guns are going, and it's that scene where later on in the scene, the kid gets flamethrowered, which is another terrifying fucking weapon of war that they deployed in this conflict. Like I don't think that they deployed those. They didn't deploy flamethrowers again in World War II. Like by the time that was happening, I think it was like a little bit more civilized. Like yeah, maybe let's not just take a flamethrower and fucking Elon Musk somebody down. Like
war crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
and what we'll be playing is this. Instantly screw up movie.
I bet it would be funny as fuck though, that first scene where you're like in the trenches with them and he has to run out and you see everybody getting capped around him, like you know what I mean, like, and then he throws the grenade. Like I feel like that would be a good scene to have the Benny Hill scene.
I was also thinking a lot
That's
about
more than- that's enough
Samuel
of that.
Fuller in this movie because
yeah,
I love the documentary, the typewriter, the
good reset,
rifle.
Andy. Good on you.
I can't remember the full name of the documentary, but there's a great one on Samuel Fuller. It's like typewriter, rifle, and something else. The cameraman.
Yeah, I've seen it. I don't remember what it's called though.
Yeah, so, something like that. And my favorite moment is whenever he's like, when I make war films, I lie. When people get shot in my films, they just fall over. And that's all I can, So every single time somebody just falls over in the movie, I just had Samuel Fuller's voice in my head, just yelling that. Like, but in real life, they just, body parts going everywhere.
Oh my god.
So
that's true, Sam Fuller. Yeah.
Something that I think I'm gonna wait to play until the after party because I'm afraid of getting a copyright strike for it. Is that there's the documentary, the making of documentary. They show the entire training and like the process of like actually throwing these kids into barbed wire, like into like the barbed wire battlefield or whatever. Like they made them actually learn how to use the machine guns, obviously, like old style machine guns. Like it's kind of fascinating, but they have the entire dun 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 behind it, and I'm afraid that like we'll instantly get I'm afraid that we'll instantly get hit with a copyright strike.
Take a shot every time Conan plays that.
Oh man, you won't make it to the end of the show.
Well, I'll do that. I got vodka for the after party, so I'll play the game.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I think I'll just make vodka. I just make a screwdriver, put some vodka in my lemonade.
They were gonna say I'll just make vodka. I was like, whoa.
Just make vodka. Yeah. Hardcore.
You got all these potatoes. What else are you gonna do?
It's the German in her. Like, I'll make anything.
And Germans don't get hungover.
alcohol.
If you have, if your DNA is mostly German, like you do not get hungover. You can handle just lots of alcohol in one night.
Oh
my sister, for some reason, she just can't.
No, couldn't be me.
Okay, so having nothing to do with any of that, the crater scene. Can we talk about the crater scene, please? Because
oof, please.
Wow.
God.
Yeah. That is some heavy
Gutted.
stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's like, oh, okay. Like, and it's, I mean, I feel like it could be acted out on a stage play, it could be like on a theater stage or something. Right. But like, but obviously the horror of everything around it, just this accentuates the raw emotion of it. And again, the fact that like, these kids are almost like interchangeable. It doesn't matter which side they're fighting for. Like it's just the brutality, like they're using like the helmet as a weapon and things like that. It's just it blows my mind. Like that's where I was getting big come and see vibes out of it too. I was like, oh yeah, like this is real war is not exciting looking. It's nasty and full of blood
and especially
and shit.
this war, right? Like this is before they choreographed it. I'm looking for a quote from the book though.
Choreograph, you say? Okay, now kill.
I wrote down a quote from the book that I'm looking for about the tanks and like the full destruction of them.
Well, Lauren, what do you think? What do you think about the crater scene? Was that deeply affecting for you too? Knowing that your internet is, I asked a question of the person whose internet is not being great right now, but here we are.
Yeah.
Sorry, my internet keeps coming in and out. So
yeah, that's fine. It's good now.
So from
sorry,
a
my
force
internet
is talking.
keeps
It's great.
freezing on.
Every
No,
time.
my internet keeps.
That's fine.
From a mockery, the tanks have become a terrible weapon. Armored, they come rolling in long lines. More than anything, they embody the horror of war. We do not see the guns that bombard us. The enemy lines of attacking infantry are men like ourselves, but these tanks are machines. They're caterpillars that run on. They're annihilation. They roll on without feeling into the craters and out without stopping. Is a particularly affecting I think passage from the novel.
Yeah.
How many of y'all had to read the novel for like school or anything?
I didn't.
Did you have to?
No, we read, and when it came to like German related like war, like we had to read Night by Elie Wiesel about his time in the concentration camps during the Holocaust. And then we did the play for like we read over the Diary of Anne Frank. We didn't really go over like World War One. I don't know what it is about the South, but we're more focused on World War II down here, which I'm like, is it to compensate for the Civil War?
For my, like, I think I had to read All Quiet on the Western Front my sophomore year. And what was really interesting about it is I feel like now that I've seen the 1930s. Oh, I don't know if I cut out or not. But for the I want to reread the book because when I read the book, I was in sophomore year of high school. It was right after we had done The Things They Carried, and that book was really like affecting for me. And so I was just processing like my time with The Things They Carried, and then they're like, and now on to World War I, and I was just like, I'm tired and burnt out, and I don't know how to like process this. So I kind of tuned myself out of just the sheer brutality of it, because like they just literally like they doubled up on the war book.
And nowadays they just show Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
and then after that we read like a mid.
It's Ron DeSantis's new woke movies in school program. They're like, you can only watch.
Did you guys ever read My Brother Sam is Dead?
No.
It has this quote that sticks in my mind. This quote is, "War turns men into beasts."
Oh, that's a good line.
I mean, getting that power, you're gonna end up, gleefully murdering civilians too while you're at it. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of lines like that also in All Quiet on the Western Front, like throughout it. There's a lot of lines about losing your humanity and the full toll that war took on you. I wrote down a bunch of them so I could come back to them, but I was stupid and wrote them in like tweet form, so I have to try to get back to them. So here on the borders of death, life follows an amazingly simple course. It is limited to what is most necessary. All else is buried in gloomy sleep. In that, besides our primitiveness and our survival, we are more if we were more subtly differentiated, we would long since have gone mad, have deserted, or have fallen. It's kind of another, men into beasts, a very affecting thing. I think this movie does a really good job with the novel because, reading through the novel yesterday or listening through the novel yesterday, I noticed that a lot of the dialogue in the movie is taken, but then kind of dispersed throughout other, the dialogue is the same. Like they use quotes directly from the book, the conversations are directly from the book, but they disperse them out through different scenes and make them kind of flow better, as opposed to like this personal narrative version of it, which I think is a great way to do it. And I think that the breaks in the movie where, you go to see Erzberger and the French kind of doing this whole deal. And also, he gets the okay from Hindenburg, who ends up being the guy that hands the chancellery to Hitler later. It's kind of deeply fascinating. Like it gives you such a break and such a deviation from this, which the book does too, but it's a personal narrative. So you get a break where he goes home and sees his family and gets put on leave or goes to the hospital. Like you get those kinds of breaks. And instead of doing that, this movie kind of gave you the train scenes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get the train scenes and then you get the dalliances in the farm, right? You get a few small breaks, but there's not much of it really. And then what I like though is when you get to things like the train scene, they're bitching about food and stuff, and they're still talking about very tactile needs, but you don't. But it's not overdone. It's not like, boy, it sucks that there's nothing to eat anywhere and that we're all very hungry. It's it shows you rather than telling you.
Which the book obviously has to tell you rather than show you.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you don't have an option when it's a book, but I think they do.
Stuff like the line where he's like turnip bread, where you get turnips for that's taken directly from the in the book version, recruits new recruits or whatever, because they just feed the book makes it very, very clear they're just feeding these kids into the machine every time they'll get a bunch of new recruits and just mow them down. And
when they're not feeding them turnip bread apparently.
But in the book, they like explain to the kid like, "Oh, don't worry, you get turnip bread for lunch." Like that exact line, but it's taken into the movie into like a much more I think of an organic context rather than kind of making sure that like, hey, turnip bread. They're getting turnip bread.
How about that turnip bread?
What's the deal with all this turnip bread?
All these turnips are turning it into bread.
I think that, yeah.
I was gonna say, Lauren, I know you've been having some internet problems. Did you want to chime in on any of that before we move on?
Yeah, no, I think
specifically turnip bread only related commentary.
I mean, like, I don't think I would eat turnip bread. That's my contribution.
That's horrible.
Turn up. Let's get this bread. I think that the book also makes clear, which in the movie, they kind of compare this like rich lifestyle that the fucking general's living, or like, the train. One of the things they do to fuck with everyone is they give them the old scones that are like are these scones made today? And they're like, no. And he takes the scones and just like, gives it to them anyway. He's like, good. Like, give them the old scones. The book makes it clear that everybody's starving everywhere. Like, he gets to go home for 2 weeks, which is really mean to do to somebody, right? Like, he gets to leave the front and go home for 2 weeks and hang out with his family and then go back to the front. And it's like, and he like, a lot of the book is him complaining about that, being like,
how demoralizing, like, to have a taste of freedom and have it ripped away from you. Like, that's almost more mentally breaking than just never getting to go home.
And so,
yeah, exactly.
It kind of says that.
Cruel.
Yeah.
Like, 100%. And like, then they still have to go back afterwards, which is so astounding. And you get a hint for like just how things are when you ever deal with the farmers, like when they steal the goose, and like literally, no, they're shooting at them, and they're shooting, they hit. Dude, like they're not like, here's a warning shot. It's like, no, if there's a bad shot. But like,
I like how they basically opened up another battlefield though between them and the farmers. It's like,
right. Well, they kept going back, and that was sort of like, that was, if they hadn't gone back, again, and by the way, as someone who despises eggs, like, I don't eat them. I used to be allergic when I was a kid. I was like, really, for eggs? Really?
He does the Rocky too, and he does
I
the
just
Rocky
eat
too,
scrambled eggs, nothing else.
Well, they were scrambled after he got shot.
Well, so the book makes it clear throughout it.
No eggs in this economy.
The hard way.
Like, he goes home to his family, and his family is also starving. And like, there's a lot of beer. Like, they keep trying to hand him beers, but like, but like the family's kind of completely starving, and the mother has cancer. He comes back, and they're like, oh, by the way, mom has cancer again, and we didn't want to worry you up in the front. But yeah, so like you realize, and the dad's complaining about how he can't afford to put her in the hospital, and he doesn't know if he can afford the surgery, and like, so there's all these economic concerns on the home front that are going on at the same time. The movie instead focuses on the good life that maybe not Ertzberger getting the old scones, but like at least the general and Brixdorf, which is I like that name. He's like, Brixdorf, get in here. What are you doing?
What are you up to? Get your ass in here.
But that like building, right, and it's behind us, is like it's kind of like deserted and kind of old in this, but like it's a nice, like, he gets to just stay in that building, and of course he's completely isolated from the front and anything actually going on, because he's just kind of in that fucking weird palace, like living it up with Brixdorf.
Living it up with Brixdorf, exactly. I mean, but again, you see that divide between the people actually fighting the war and the people moving the pieces around. And I think that a lot of films attempt to do that, but I think it's very eloquently shown here. And just how arbitrary and petty some of the decisions can be. Like, can we just talk about how they're like, yeah, hey, so there's going to be an armistice, but we don't want to be too embarrassed, so we're going to do one last battle, and we're going to win this one. And everyone's like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to. We want to stop fighting like right now. We would like to not do that. Well, you have to, though.
And they made clear that like people are deserting and they're just running around the countryside, which was the point of having the gendarme, was like that if people did that, like they'd get court-martialed and shot. And I guess not that many people got shot throughout the entirety of it, but like you could overwhelm the gendarme just by kind of having enough people desert at the same time, and it seems like that was what was going on.
But it's just so horrific. I mean, again, like, war is horrific, but like, hey, it's over, but not quite. Like,
It's over in 6 hours.
We're gonna need you to go back into the burning building, to go get my stamp collection. What? No, fuck your stamp collection.
I also love that. I also love that at 11 o'clock they really do disperse they're like, all right, like it's 11 o'clock, guns down. Like, because you'd assume that like maybe some fighting would still take place or something, but and of course it's to show you how horrific it is that like he got killed. He got like
he got killed like right before the buzzer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is again horrible, but like doubly horrible in the fact that was completely preventable. Like that was just because like, well, this is already going to be embarrassing. We know we negotiated a bad deal. We let them go this long. Like, what's one more battle? Because they're not thinking about it in terms of the appreciable loss of life. They're thinking about it in terms of assets and strategy and how embarrassed they will be. Right, as a military and their government, and again, you cannot underrepresent how often poor decisions are made in government and military by people's not wanting to be embarrassed.
And it's so futile. It's kind of petty and futile, right? Like, and the entirety of the front is like it's constantly you're getting 100 feet there. 100 feet there, 100. You know what I mean? Like the ground you're gaining is literally measured in
inches and feet. Yeah. Or whatever.
So this
centimeters
is
and meters. Whatever.
You want to get no man's land. I almost said nomad land. You want to get no man's land. You want to get no man's land between yourself and the French, which isn't going to matter when they actually argue through an armistice because like they're arguing over large territories. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to be like, well, I guess you keep this plane. Like Latier is yours. Like I guess like. No, like you're gonna lose everything. Like you lose all of this. Like it's a show of I guess military power in his mind, but like it's not. Like
it is even effective as that. Yeah, it's like not even like it's an attempted show of power, but it's feckless and like a literal waste of life. And that's what makes it so gnarly is that like think about like what are the cumulative political results of this, right? Again, a national embarrassment so deep that you have like the rise of literal Hitler. The actual Hitler, the movement that spawned Hitler, which came out of a national embarrassment, and the fact that they're like, we don't want to live with this for the rest of our days. We need to rebuild our pride. How do we do that? Well, and again, this is where it's going to seem like a weird analogy, but why I have such a problem with shame being the only tool in the toolbox when people go after folks trying to get consequences for their speech or actions, which in fact, if you only have shame in there, what's going to happen is that you're going to build resentment. You're not going to learn a lesson. They're not going to learn lessons of any kind. They're just going to be resentful about it.
Well, and the entire Freikorps, which is the paramilitary organization that spawned into the Nazi Party that was empowered by the SPD, who ended up being the winners of the conflict pretty much, like as a paramilitary force to take out both like communists and unions. They were just the affected soldiers, like the people that were pretty much sent into the trenches at the end, like in mass or whatever. Like they obviously, you're shell shocked and you have PTSD, which isn't even recognized yet. And you can't like measure back into society. You've seen things that are too horrific. You're also reactionary to the point of like, you're just a soldier, right? Like you're told go here, go there. Like, so people that continued to need that battle and continued to kind of be utilized by political, pawns as this force eventually rose up on their own through Hitler, who was another, one of those small fry fucking, World War I veterans, right? Like he was in that conflict. And if you look at him, he's like, small and he's a shrimpy, and like you can see how that person would have grown into the cult of personality that is Hitler and been fully empowered by all of that.
Probably an experience along the lines of when they're like just going hand to hand in the mud and like he's like getting to drown in the mud and he's like reaching for the gun. Probably saw some of that. Probably didn't experience it, but probably saw some of it. It was like, we can't have this happen again, which led to some stuff.
We got to take back pretty much everything that we lost in this conflict. Like this is unfair. Like it's pretty much building back the military force to demand that
it's building back better, really. Sorry, too soon.
Jack, come on now, fat. Corn pop, was a bad dude. Do not.
What is that accent?
I don't know. I was
Whatever it
I was
is,
trying to do- I
we'll
was trying to
save
do
it for the
yelling-
after party.
I was trying to do like a yelling German voice.
Ja, wat men her.
You sounded more like the Iron Sheik, frankly, but
Yeah.
which is not the worst thing to sound like if you're anyway. So Lauren, any thoughts on the end or nigh end of this film?
I personally I like the ending or the non-ending. I like when war films just don't really I like when they don't really like conclude. Just like when they don't conclude. Because like I mean like it's a cyclical thing. It's like one thing ends, another thing begins. Like there are no breaks, there is no conclusion. It's gonna keep going regardless of who's in the conflict or where or what time or what technology we have access to. So I think that the way that I think the way that the film ended and just the tone that it ended on just seemed correct to me.
Yeah, and you know, I think it actually it's one of the few ones you'll hear me not bitch about the runtime for because I think it works.
I think so too.
Yes.
And there's a lot of movies that like even ones I like where it's like, all right, wrap it up. You know, it's
No, there's no fat in this movie.
right.
That's how I felt when I watched
no
Dunkirk.
pork.
Like I was like when I was watching Dunkirk, I was just like, okay, come on now. By the way, Christopher Nolan like wishes he could have done with Dunkirk what they were able to do in this movie, including the Pinot Blanc. Like I was like, Conan, yeah.
Yo, it's
Work
gonna
on
be
the
crazy
uptake.
when they start doing like a dubstep remix of that or something, and like, that all quiet in the Western Front shit. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
I could.
I mean, it's quiet enough for the Western Front, right?
I could.
You can hear it. It's quiet enough to hear it on the Western Front.
Maybe I'll try that for the after party. I'm not gonna try to do flash composition on the show with one hand. I'm impressive. I'm not that impressive.
Yo, with the way Germans talk though, there's no way it was quiet on the Western Front. Like, let's be honest. Like,
Projection on the Western Front.
Shall we go to the Letterboxd one-liners?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, Letterboxd, of course, is a place. It's a social media site for film lovers. They get to talk with and to each other about the films they love, the films they didn't love, the films that they had a 3-note bass soundtrack to. Of course, you can find many awesome friends and fans of films, such as our friend Lauren down there, who I found through Letterboxd, and happy I am.
Lonely Goat Herd, come follow me. I'll follow you back.
Yes. Of course, the all breadths of opinions, length and width of them, and everybody gets to have their say, not just Siskel's and Eberts of the world. Everybody gets to chime in. Everybody gets to work on their tight 5 in front of the brick wall. Everybody gets to do that, ideally as succinctly as possible for the purposes of this bit. It's always a blast to try to do this for something really horrifying like a war movie, but here we go. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for All Quiet on the Western Front. Let's go, baby.
Wait till you see what I chose for the graphics.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh my God.
Oh, you my mommy. Oh, sorry.
Moral of the story: don't fucking steal eggs.
Well, actually, in a time like this, we should.
I was gonna say eggs are $10 each. Steal eggs. Just do it.
But steal it from the supermarkets, not the petty bourgeois farmers.
Oh yes, no.
They're not even petty. They're just kind of farmers. Like they're peasant farmers. Like that. It must suck to have your farm like right along the battlefield, though. Like, like
the inflation was insane.
That's why they had the gas mask.
And by the way, as someone who actively dislikes eggs, I was like, really over eggs, but you know, I get it.
Over easy. Let me tell you.
Man, I'm really starting to think the war is bad.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it, huh? War is hell. Am I right?
Yeah.
I like you know the Godard quote that's like you know there's no such thing as an anti-war film.
Yeah.
I'd like to see somebody make the case that this film, right, pretty much one of the most horrific things that I've seen. I mean, beautifully shot, but like horrific. Like, I'd like to see somebody make the case that this makes them excited for war in any capacity. Like,
Yeah, I think he made that quote before Come and See, before Full Metal Jacket, before this, obviously. Yeah, like it's at the time he was correct, because the thing is, like, there was the 30s All Quiet on the Western Front had some kind of overt sentimentality. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but you know.
Yeah, this is completely devoid of sentimentality.
Yeah, exactly. Bass boosted farts does not make for a good score, but I guess they do for Oscar nomination.
All right, Conan.
Like that specific sting kind of took me out of it every time too, because it's like it's industrial music, right? Like it's that's not anything that would have been on the Western Front. Like they make a lot of use of music in the book. Like, you know, he plays the piano. Like at one point he's in a place where there's Russian prisoners, and the prisoner has a violin, which I guess that's like, you know, reaching across the aisle there or whatever. Like it's kind of
reaching across the orchestra, if you will.
Yeah.
But I mean, World War I was full of moments like that, where people, like, you know, the soldiers found peace amongst each other, and not the
well, because nobody really knew, or no normal soldier had any idea what they were fighting about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just like, oh, you want to give up your life for the fatherland? It's like, yeah, I guess. Like, I mean, I don't really know what that means for me going forward. But
I don't know. I don't think anybody knew what the war's about, even to this day.
Yeah.
Those 3 bass notes are permanently tattooed in my ears now.
Conan. Hey.
I did not have this as a prepared bit, by the way. This was not a prepared bit. This is
live, laugh, love.
Well, this utterly failed the Bechdel test.
Yeah, I'll say.
The only women are like walking by, and he's like, "Hey, women," and then he disappears with them. I love the look on that kid's face though. He leaves with the women, and he's like, "Oh, he's really all right." And
Yeah.
like,
Ben Shapiro's like, wait, I'm not
that
gonna get any.
I needed that moment because everything was so heavy, and then I was like, I would have done it.
In the book, there's enough women for, you know, all of them except for Tajin or whatever.
Yeah. When you come to my Western Front, you better shut the fuck up.
Amen.
It would be funny to have the John Wayne All Quiet on the Western Front, where he's like, it's awful
my Western
quiet.
Front, Pilgrim.
It's awful quiet out here, Pilgrim.
Bilbo Ballin is the name of that user, by the way. Can we go back? Thank you.
I love
Thank
that.
you, Bilbo Ballin.
Let's get these rings.
I would be so bad at war.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Hard same. Really.
Yeah.
But see, all those kids would have been bad at war, and in the end, they were soldiers, but also, you know, thrown into the industrial grinder. So it truly is like it's a very German fucking concept. Like, literally just taking kids and throwing them into like a literal fucking industrial grinder. I feel like my grandma would tell me stories about like the witch that, you know, ate children's bones or whatever, and this is like the real version of that, like the tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It is very German. Grimm's fairy tales, Grimm Western Front. It's all tracking.
It's all very grim.
It's all.
It's all
I was gonna say all grim on the Western Front.
Oh, good. That's good. My dad not falling asleep means this is a good war film. And that's
Well, you can't fall asleep during this film because you're gonna have nightmares about, you know, literally seeing the carnage of industrial war.
It goes back to my thing that I've said all throughout the month. Every time this movie is mentioned, right? It's you gotta keep me engaged. You gotta keep me engaged.
And that's why there's no fat in this movie. And also, you know, they really just don't have food, but
they're all. I was gonna say they were lean for other reasons, is where I was gonna go with that. But it's the same thing. Yeah, we're really in the renaissance of mud on screen.
No, but really though,
Yeah.
that was some excellent mud cosmetic, like best makeup,
Best mud acting.
Yeah,
Best mud in a serious
best
motion
mud
picture.
acting. We're going
Well, it
through
was
a
really,
donkey renaissance and a mud renaissance right now, and I'm here for both of it.
That's true.
It was really Gwyneth Paltrow doing the Goop or whatever her brand is. She really brought us into the mud renaissance.
I'm looking forward to mud donkeys.
Always
air
gonna
mud.
be too soon.
It's air mud. It's
air mud.
Air mud. That's a callback to it. Was that the Argentina 1985 episode? What did we do?
Yeah,
there,
we really didn't have much prep, and I was watching it up till the last little bit.
There was a lot of Airbud material, though. I know that much. Anyway, man, if only those guys had seen 1917, they could have avoided all this.
Except this started in 1914, and they had to travel in time. You know what I mean? Like, and
Well,
Germany
actually, staff correction.
Actually, by the way, I characterize 1917 as George McKay runs around urgently for 2.5 hours, and it looks beautiful, and that's basically the film.
True.
But anyway, those are the Letterboxd one-liners for All Quiet on the Western Front. Of course, please follow the show, which is Comrade Forrest over there, Quiet Quitting on the Western Front, at Movie Night Extravaganza. Follow the show over there, please. I am the Armed Response Farm Coalition at Conan Neutron, all over that biz, doing the highbrow, midbrow, populist stuff. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge, if you dare. J. Andrew, all out in the Western gear down there, is watching all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to, or maybe see it, Ken. I don't know. It's up to you. So who am I to judge? He's watching it though, either way, whether you're there or not. It's like the Heisenberg thing. General Baldy McMustache over there not only wants your respect, but wants your acclaim for when she deigns to come back and do some more logging on Letterboxd, because she does it only for limited series events. I think they call them now. I think that was the Twin Peaks thing, right? That's what they said.
Yeah.
Limited series event. Mm-hmm. And of course, my very good friend Lauren is Lonely Goat Herd over there. She has one of the best Letterboxd accounts, and you should follow her. I am legitimately a fan, and was a fan for a long time before she was ever on the show. She is great. All out in the Western gear. Please take us away with the plugs.
All right, you're watching us on YouTube, so please do those YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And the big ask is to watch the video to the end, because that helps other movie fans find our content, and you get access, you get to hear that great Conan Neutron song. No, the other one.
Oh, okay. Funny thing about that, I didn't have it ready. I was like, I gotta get it real quick. Because I knew we were going with it.
We're also on Twitch, so please do the Twitch things. Throw us a sub. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to our channel for free. That helps us out and doesn't cost you a penny.
Exactly. Yes. I can't do that because I subscribe to Christina, so I can't do it. But.
We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you want more content from us, check us out there. We also have a Twitter community too. So we're got things happening at other places.
We got things happening on Dead Mediums. Yes.
Hey, well, until Mastodon takes off, what do you want?
Whenever that happens.
Yeah, exactly. We're on that too, aren't we? I don't know. Friendster, sure. MySpace, MP3.com, Pets.com. We're all over it.
Yeah. Yes.
Neopets, E-Bombs World.
Hamster Dance. We're on that somehow. I don't know. It's hamster dancing. It's crazy.
We have a Patreon where you can actually catch us do the hamster dance. If you're no, we don't do hamster dances on
or
Patreon.
Maybe we do. You don't know because you're not a patron. If you subscribe,
if you give
you
enough,
know when we
you
do
can get enough.
Exactly.
But the big thing is you can have access to the after parties we do forever.
After party forever.
After party forever.
It never gets old. It doesn't.
we also never ever get to do the song in sync. Like
no,
it's
someone gotta go and a one and a two.
And
I guess
and like
as a musician here, maybe I could do
we
that.
still get
yeah.
it wrong.
You can play like that little whistle thing that gets everybody in harmony.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
one and a two. And
I like that all these suggestions are more work for me. I like that. Yeah.
The barbershop
going up for
quartet
this shit.
of
Well,
After
you know,
Party
that's
forever.
because you are the musician of the group here, and
I'm a bass.
Right.
I'm a bass.
You don't know me?
singer.
You don't know me? I am a composer. I compose. You know what I compose? I made $33,000 for every one of those notes.
now the good news is if you want more of that kind of music, you can go to Neutron Friends on Bandcamp.com, and it's not there. There's actually good stuff.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
It is the new Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends record. All right, dun dun dun. It is the record that I sent the record to Conan, and he said it was good. So they put it in the movie, and
So minimal.
the tanks
Love it.
came in, and I heard my song, and I heard Secret Friends, and there we were.
So minimal, it's almost not there.
That guy was honestly so minimal, he was almost not there.
Look, I'm not trying to play or hate or anything, but it was like, yeah, did you see Dune? I feel like you might have seen Dune.
I was watching Dune, and I thought to myself, this would make an excellent war movie soundtrack. So I copied it.
It's like when Vanilla Ice tried to claim that he wasn't doing it under pressure. It's like, no. See, the thing is, mine goes
totally different.
Totally different. There's an extra
All right,
note.
stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something to get hold of me tightly. Swing like a top, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow.
You guys know
But it's
so
because of the
much.
radioactivity, actually. I'm. If you want to see commitment to
it's
the
the
bit like
secret
that,
of the use.
yeah, then go to the after party forever.
After party.
Yes. But also there's a great show called Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal that y'all should check out. Who's coming up this week?
It's exactly the same as when you asked me on Friday because it happens on Thursday. So it's Russell Simmons of Blues Explosion and Service, and that should be great. And of course, the Rose Marshak episode from Poster Children, who she wrote a great book called Play Like a Man. That's up in the general feed now, so it's not just for patrons anymore.
And both days, when I asked that question, I thought you were going to say Blues Hammer both times.
If you like blues, you'll love Blues Hammer.
Yes.
When are you gonna get a big guest like the guy that wrote dun dun dun?
Well, when's Hans Zimmer coming on?
It's coming on.
Conan,
Never.
Conan, thank
Hate
you
that
so
hack.
much. Thank you so much for having me on. When I wrote dun dun dun, I did not think I would be on the famous Conan Neutron Protonic Reversal podcast, but here I am.
Here you are. Dreams do
Here I
count.
am, just years later, and it feels so good, and it's better than the Oscar nomination I got.
Who can forget? Everyone remembers where they were when they heard it.
Yes. I think
Where are we?
we? Conan.
Are
Yeah,
we still in
think
mine? Okay.
Did we finish you up? I think we got everything. So Christina,
oh yeah, you can subscribe to the Patreon too. That's it.
yes, the Patreon. You get it's only $1, folks. and you
$1.
get the episodes early, which is a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Christina's over there with her Twitch channel.
Yeah.
Christina's over there. Yeah, she is. Yeah, thanks for acknowledging her.
Over here. Hey.
Show her some respect, would you?
Do you have anything coming up on Twitch that we should know about? Or?
We're probably gonna go over. Well, actually, this week, fun Monday street. Yeah, Monday, right? Yeah, we went over the history of porn.
Oh,
it was a lot of fun.
Some guy was fucking, and he's like, "Yo, what if I'm homeless though?"
That's exactly that. No, seriously. Like we talked about the history of how it was like calligraphy, the
Boogie
photography,
Nights, pretty much.
the videos. Like they talked about Deep Throat. I'm like, guys, this is when they talk about Deep Throat, and they're like, why are you getting so excited? I'm like, because
I've seen all the President's Men. Oh. oh, okay.
But yeah, then we'll find
you're
more
talking
stuff
about the
to
X
talk
Files, right?
tomorrow.
First season.
Huh?
Yeah.
What?
I imagine the history of
Andy made
pornography.
a similar but worse joke than I did. Don't worry about it.
I imagine the history of pornography started when like two cavemen were like hanging out there, and he's like, "Guess what I did last night?" And he's like, "What?" And he drew like
Started carving
like,
in the the cave.
That's exactly what happened.
I love there's this comedy troupe out of Canada, and they said that
I can't wait to see when this is done.
the internet was invented in 1956 because high-ranking military officials wanted to have access to porn in case of a nuclear emergency.
Oh.
I gotta rub one out real. I gotta rub one out real quick. The nukes are about to drop. I got 10 minutes.
Honestly, tracks.
I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna think about that countdown nuclear clock entirely differently now.
But also, while you're at it, buy Christina a coffee. Go to kofi.com/Cosma. Is that right?
Cosmopolitics.
Cosmopolitics. Sorry.
And I got a Throne account, which is where you can buy me stuff. So if you want to gift me something, throne.me/cosmopolitics. Because
there we go.
I'm on the throne.
Throne, like watch the throne. Like
no, like
bow to the throne.
It's just like a wish list place where people could donate, buy stuff off my Amazon wish list, and stuff like that.
But it's called Throne.
Yeah, Throne, like Game of Thrones.
Okay.
But if this is no game, people, give it to her immediately.
Yeah.
I got to redecorate my streaming space, guys. Come on,
Exactly.
now.
She's
Posters
got
are only
expenses.
like $11.
Show some respect and show some Skrilla. Thank you.
All right. Make sure you do that. And Lauren, is there anything you want to plug?
Y'all can just follow me on Letterboxd. I'm actually I try to do I'm trying to do themed months. So we're wrapping up Black History Month, where I am watching films that are positive Black stories, not just about pain and suffering and slavery, but really just showcasing like queer Black women's stories and things like that. So if you want to finish up the month with me and get some of those recs, then holler at me. Also next month, usually I do something for Women's History Month, but I'm going to do something a little bit different this year because I want to highlight Disability Awareness Month in March. So my hope is to find some movies that are realistic, positive, but not like inspiration porn, disability centered films and documentaries. So just subscribe to my Letterboxd, and then I'll make a list of those films if you want to follow along with me, and we can get woke together or whatever.
Lauren's lists are very good. I've found many good recommendations from Lauren. Also, she is known for making note of when certain features are leaving services, like when something's leaving Hulu or Criterion Channel or whatnot, and that is an incredibly useful.
What's the
I am doing a service for the people.
Right. She also has a list called Hedonistic Nuns, relevant to my
Oh
interests.
yeah, I have to add on to my hedonistic nuns. I just watched a good one this week. Always room for more.
What was it? Nude nuns?
There certainly is.
Guns?
It was literally called The Nun.
Okay.
I was like,
Truth
this
in
is only
advertising.
hedonistic nuns.
The Nun, yeah.
Nuns with buns.
I thought that was Benedetta. Anyway, are we done? Is that it?
No, I got one more thing. I got to bring
yeah.
everything back down a little bit because we're getting too silly.
Okay.
No, it's Oscar season. Oscar season always makes me think of my friend Eric, who took his own life. So I just want to put it out there. If you are in need, there are people who you can talk to. So please, you can call 988 or text 988 from any phone. Well, you can't text from any phone, but you know what I'm saying. Like you can call or text that number, get a hold of somebody. If you need just the national number, it's 1-800-273-8255. There is a trans lifeline, 1-877-565-8860. There's the Trevor Lifeline for LGBTQ youth. If I can say that one, I always screw that one up somehow. But yeah, there we go. The Trevor Lifeline for LGBTQ youth. That's 1-866-488-7386. And finally, I got a veterans hotline for you. It is 1-800 273-8255, and then press 1. Thank you.
There you go.
Amazing resources. Thanks for sharing them.
All right. Lauren, you got some final thoughts about this movie?
Final thoughts. I think as far as war films go, you know, I always say a lot of war films for me like can just go into a landfill and they all kind of just congeal together. I would say this film is more similar to me that on how I felt when I saw Come and See. I think the realism of World War I has never been depicted better. And I like just the kind of up close and personal stories that we get from each of the characters. I really hope that that trend continues in filmmaking rather than just making war films that are based upon spectacle and nationalism. So,
And I think this movie utilizes spectacle in a way that's like, I mean, like at least the way it's stylized, yeah, without kind of making it the whole thing. I mean, because you know, there's no way to make this story nationalistic or something if you're on the German side. Like, it led to a lot of bad shit.
Here's before we move on, this is from the comments. Can I push in a last movie question? Which one is better for you all, that 1917 movie from a few years ago or the latest All Quiet? Cheers. No question, All Quiet. I think 1917 looks amazing. This is a better film. Roger Deakins. How's it not going to look amazing? It's Roger Deakins. It's like the best in the game. It looks incredible. It's beautiful, but this is a better film by far.
But Christina, final thoughts.
Ein wunderbar Kriegsfilm.
Sehr gut, sehr gut, sehr gut.
I mean, not so good for Germans, but yeah.
I said a wonderful.
Sie sprechen Deutsch nicht so gut.
Conan?
Look, a technically excellent film about the horrors of war. This is absolutely brutal and insistent about the pointlessness of it all. And absolutely, Come and See is the better film. And 1917, I feel, is well down the line after this. It's about a parody with Saving Private Ryan, but hits in a very different way. It's very great for the thing it is. I did not expect this to strike a chord the way that it has, but I think I get it because we have real life, you know, honest to goodness shooting wars going on now, and it's back in people's lives in a very intrinsic and real way, especially for the people fighting it. So this is a great film, and I think I may have short sold it when I first saw it, but I definitely get the resonance of it. I think it's a movie that will last for folks going forward. If you're remotely interested in the genre, you should definitely check it out.
I think the imagery coming out of Ukraine too really resonates. Like a movie like this, right? Because there's a lot of like the Russian tank footage where they've blown up a lot of them, and entire cities kind of leveled that people are kind of hiding out in. Like I feel like if there was a war in Europe that like sprung out, and then a movie that kind of represented like the most modern version of that, like you couldn't have picked a better movie.
And again, we mentioned earlier the when the tanks come and like you don't know what's happening, they don't know what's happening, and stuff's shaking. That is probably the best depiction of the first use of tanks in an armed conflict that I think I've ever seen. Because again, it's like we made an analogy and we're having a laugh of it being like AT-ATs and stuff. But no, that's what it would have felt like. Like, what is this? There's a rolling thing coming towards me. Like this is like a cart, but it's got a gun on it. What is happening? You know, it's crazy.
And that quote in the book kind of amazed me, where they're like, oh well, we didn't take these seriously at first. They're kind of ridiculous looking, but then nothing more than this represents the annihilation of war. It's like, oh fuck. Reading the book and then watching the movie again last night hit in a completely different way for me, I think.
Yep. Different kind of game changer.
But Andy, final thoughts.
I gotta say this was a great watch. I didn't know what I was getting into when I started it because I ignored it. I don't even know if I've seen the original. To be honest with you, if I have, I don't remember anything about it. So I kind of went in not knowing what I was getting myself into, and there were some genuinely funny moments, some very heartwarming moments that allows you to get through the horrors of this film and also contrast it very nicely. And I think it's that contrast. Because I actually did laugh out loud whenever it's like, bridle, you guys make horse bridles. You're set for life. That cracked me up. I actually did laugh out loud whenever he said that.
And the novel makes a lot of use of that same kind of humor like throughout it, like sprinkled in like, this is how we survive. We make a lot of jokes. A lot of them are dark jokes, not in the way people are making dark jokes these days, where it's just racist jokes, but they actually like legitimately it's gallows humor throughout the entire book.
Yeah. But yeah, it was there was, like I said, just so many great human moments too. Like when they're on the shitter and finds out that the guy's son is dead.
Yeah.
It's just
best public shitter moment since Benedetta for sure.
Yeah, that's why
we got women talking and we got guys pooping.
Yeah, no, I'm just disappointed nobody said like in Tar, how's the shitting going?
That can't be how we end this episode. There's no way.
How's the shooting going? But yeah, I think that this movie was pretty great and pretty horrific, and hopefully tanks don't roll in anywhere else.